Hello, everyone. This is Ashley Pitzer, your host with Practicing Life podcast. Today, I'm talking about dreams come true. All right. So, really, this podcast is going to be a little backstory about me. First of all, I want to say how super excited I am to finally receive my manuscript back from my editor. This hopefully is the last set of revisions, and I can finally release this for all of those out there that have ever thought about writing or have written a book. Your deadlines get pushed and they get pushed and they get pushed. So this was supposed to be out August, September, then October, and then November, and then December, and now it's looking like it's February. And that's okay because I trust this process and I trust the timing of the universe. The universe always has my back, treats me so good. And so I know that whenever this book gets released, it's going to be the perfect time. But I don't know how much I have really shared about this whole process with writing my book. Many people dream of writing a book, whether they are a coach or a doctor or a counselor or, even I was going to say magician, even a mechanic. There are people out there who want to write about anything and everything, but writing a book seems very daunting. There's a lot of process that happens to it. There's a lot of detailed work as well as vision work that goes in. And I am so lucky to be blessed with being able to get into the details as well as seeing the vision. That's just who I've always been. But people generally fall into one camp or the other. They're a visionary, but they hate the details and they hate getting stuck into the little details. And then there's the people that love the details, but they can't see the big picture. And writing really takes both. But that doesn't mean that you can't write your book. So if you're one of those people out there that has ever considered writing a book, you can still write a book. There are tons of coaches out there that help you write. There's programs out there that help you write. There's just so much resources. Now, me particularly, I didn't use any of that because I already have those skills. But my editor is somebody I did have to hire because grammar is not one of my skills. I will tell you that. Grammar is something that was a really late skill for me. And today's podcast, what inspired me is for all of those that are on YouTube and watching this video, I found in my Tupperware in the basement one of my college journals, and this is a notebook that you turn into your teacher, and they grade it and they return the book back to you. So all of your work stays into one notebook or composition, whatever you like to call these. And so for whatever reason, I kept this. And I found it the other day when I was searching for my husband and I. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. Yay, us. I can do a whole podcast on that because we've had some hard times, people. It hasn't been all sunshines, rainbows, and butterflies. Like, it has been real. And so anyway, when I was searching for one of our earlier pictures to celebrate, this is the one I found for those on YouTube. Aren't we so cute? We're little babies. Anyway, when I was searching for this, one of our earlier dating pictures, because we've been together since I was 16, I found this notebook. And you've heard me say this before. What happens in your life happens for a reason. Okay, there are no coincidences. I found this notebook at this time for this purpose, to be able to share this with you. And I know that as soon as I saw this journal, I was like, what's this? I totally had forgotten about it. And then to find this juicy stuff in here to share with you today, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to show my audience this. So I have a couple of things I would share with you. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this journal exercise I found, because it's going to be a wonderful coaching opportunity for you all. So in this journal, I had to write it was a 10-minute writing exercise on what you think about being a writer, whether you think you should be a writer, shouldn't be a writer, why are you here in this writing class? So this was a creative writing class that I took. Now, as a youth, I took creative writing classes in high school. I took them in college. It's something that appealed to me. But I would tell you, like, I have a presentation that I do for people on confidence, on building confidence, on not letting doubt deter you from your goals. And so even in this presentation that I put together as an adult, I talk about the reasons why I didn't think it was possible for me to be a writer. And so this so goes into your hypnosis too, and the way that your brain works, because in your youth, a lot of ideas are formed. And because these ideas are formed, they carry through with you into your adulthood, maybe even until you die if you don't change them. But they're there and you have to work with them as an adult. Well, you don't have to, you can ignore them and keep them. But if they don't work for you, then you have to make a choice on whether or not you want to work with them. So in my youth, I had all of these ideas around why I can't be a writer, and that's going to be revealed in this. But even in my confidence presentation that I put together, I am talking about how grammar isn't my skill, and I didn't think I could be a writer because I lacked the ability to, edit my own work. I lacked the ability to spell. I didn't know sentence structure rules, like I just didn't know them. And so there's a lot of writing that I've done that I've been able to wing through my professional life, and it's worked for me. But to be like an author, I really made it mean that I had to be something more than I already am. And I was ignoring all of these other skill sets that I had. So this is today, this is who I was prior to getting coached on this myself. I'll just say that. I went and got coached on living a more fulfilling life. And so I went to a transformational coach, and we, made a decision. Essentially, they asked me this brilliant question, one of the most impactful questions I've ever heard. And my mentor was Jim Fortin, just for you to know, in case you want to follow him. He's fantastic. He's a great transformational coach. And I joined his transformational coaching program, which is TCP. And one of the brilliant questions they asked is, if you already had $5 million, what would you be doing? So you already have the money. You don't have to stress out about anything. Can you just imagine what you would do then? Well, I could. And when I sat down to do that PDF and answer those questions, it was very apparent to me, because my pen couldn't even keep up with the words that were coming out of me. And anyway, I knew when I was writing that I wanted to be an author. It's been on my bucket list. My dream was to write a fantasy novel. And to me, it had been, my recall is, it had been since I was a college student, and I took like an early childhood development class where we had to essentially do a bunch of literature for children's books. And so my final exam in this childhood literature class was, you could choose between writing like a picture book, a children's picture book, or you could try doing like a middle-age novel. And so I chose to do this novel for middle-aged students, and I did it over a girl named Anders, and she wanted to know what it meant to be a woman. So this was my first attempt at writing a novel. It was my final exam in college. And I remember my professor coming back to me and saying I really should pursue a career in writing. And that wasn't even on my radar, people. Okay. It might have been my bucket list. It might have been a dream, but I was like, dude, I'm opening a gym. I went to school for business, and I had a specific function on like the I didn't go to a university. I went to a college. They actually operate a little bit different than the universities. So it was kind of like I had to do a whole project in order to graduate. And so my project was creating a gym. I think it was called Zesty Fitness, Zest Fitness, something around that line. And I mean, I had to create the floor plans and do the accounting, and this was my dream. And I mean, I not only was my dream, but I mean, I followed suit with this, and I ended up running gyms and managing gyms and being a personal trainer and being in group fitness. And so it's not like this wasn't appealing to me. It did appeal to me and it spoke to me, but this whole dream of being an author was just that. I just kept it in this dream, this wish list, and this bucket list. But in my memory and what I could recall, I thought that the dream of me being a writer started. I started in college with that situation, with writing that novel over the lovely young Anders wanting to be a woman. And so anyway, this is the way our brain works. We file and we discard things. Your brain has a deletion, it generalizes, it does these things. This is the way your subconscious works. So it filters things out essentially. And so I have filtered out so many things. And when I ran across this journal from my creative writing class in college, and I read it, I was so floored. So I shall share this with you. Again, this is a 10-minute writing about why you should be a writer, why you shouldn't be a writer. Like, what are your thoughts about writing? And so I will not read all of this because 10 minutes of writing can take up a lot of time to talk, but I will just skip through here. I said I don't remember being a writer. I do remember in 3rd grade when I went to a special classroom because I was mute as a child. And at the time, I was too shy to talk. And in class, they would reward me with cookies for reading out loud. Then, when I came back to class later in the year, they were learning cursive. It was another language to me. So I'll pause right here. So in my youth, my very early days, I didn't speak. I didn't speak it at all. And this, as many of you can relate to, is the fact that like I was scared to speak. I was so terrified to speak because in my household, speaking brought you attention, and attention could bring a punishment, a spanking, some type of physical harm. And so I wanted to be unnoticeable. And so I didn't speak. I was terrified to speak. I was terrified of saying the wrong thing as I got older. But in this memory, what I'm recalling is that I wasn't able to pass my grade levels. So I actually repeated kindergarten because in kindergarten, I wasn't speaking. So I couldn't, say my ABCs. I couldn't count to 10. There was all these things. And so they weren't able to pass me. So I repeated kindergarten and started going to a speech class. And this was my special class, right? So I went to a speech class to be able to speak. And even when I did speak, I only whispered. I would not speak out loud. And so, the way that schools function is they take you when they can take you. So in my youth, the class that I always got pulled from was the English class. So I would leave English class to go take a speech class so that I could build the confidence to be able to speak out loud. And so that is what this memory is journaling about. And then when I came back, they were learning cursive, and I was like, what the hell is this? No. Anyway, I still today write mostly, what do you even call this? I mostly write in English. I don't use cursive. What's the opposite of not using cursive? I don't know. I can't think of it. But in 4th grade, I started orchestra. So this is what I'm journaling about. In 4th grade, I started orchestra. But guess what? They held orchestra during English class. So in 4th grade and 5th grade, every time English occurred, I was getting pulled out of class, not getting the instruction, not getting the education that I needed to learn how to spell or to learn how to do grammar. I missed that. All through elementary. From kindergarten through 5th grade, I essentially missed English class because I was in speech class or I was in orchestra. And so I was shy. I didn't know how to spell. Also, because I didn't speak as being mute and not being somebody who spoke, I did not learn pronunciation, how to sound things out. I didn't learn how syllables were broken up in a word. There was so much that I missed in my education. So I'm even writing this. I'm writing that in 4th grade, my orchestra class was during English class, so I missed out on all of the learning. One of my favorite memories was in 5th grade. We had to make a poem out of syllables of our phone number. I remember being so proud. I also remember in fifth grade when we went to camp, they asked the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up. I said I wanted to be a writer. That is the whole reason I'm bringing this up to you. This was a lost memory. It was deleted. It was filtered out in my brain. It didn't matter. It was unimportant. I would not have told you in fifth grade that I wanted to be a writer. I had no freaking clue that I had wrote this, but I found this. And this is so interesting because I struggled for a good 10 years or more with the idea of being a writer and telling myself all the reasons I can't be a writer. And even when I was getting coached on this one-on-one, and I was talking about I love writing, I enjoy writing, and they were, my coach was all about, follow your joy, follow your heart. I kept arguing with my coach. Well, yeah, this provides me with joy, but this isn't my purpose. This isn't my dharma. This doesn't provide me with like the type of joy that I'm looking for. This is just a little bit of joy. I just enjoy this. Like I had just argued and I made up all of these things. And here it is in fifth grade. Like when my kids did fifth grade, it wasn't at camp that they announced this. This was at fifth grade graduation. And at fifth grade graduation, you got to see these little presentation of your kid with pictures and they would say what they wanted to be. But here it was in my life, fifth grade camp, which was one of the best memories I had from fifth grade, that I announced to the world that I wanted to be a writer and I had completely forgotten about it. It was a long lost memory. So I go on to say, however, I can't say I have ever been a writer. One of my teachers encourages my writing, Mrs. Watson, my freshman English teacher and my comp teacher. She said I have a unique style, but I need to improve on my grammar and my sentence structure. Well, isn't that the truth? Anyway, so I go on to say I took a creative writing class my senior year in high school. And so I'm talking about that. And then I'm going to flip this page here. I go on to say, I love to write for myself, but not because I want people to read it. No, I am shy about a lot of my work unless I'm specifically preparing it for an audience. Taking this creative writing class has helped me be honest about my fears. Anyway, and I go on and I talk about these different things because it's a 10-minute writing exercise. So here it is. Here it is. I'm going to tell you because as a coach, as a hypnotist, I work on this for other people, but I'm going to coach myself live on this podcast here, really, because we all have this in common. Fears stop us. Fears get in the way. And I had all of these fears. I had all of these beliefs that were blocking me. So my beliefs were that I couldn't be a writer. I missed out on all of the education around English and learning how to write proper structures. And I was mute and I was super shy. And, there's so many things that I just couldn't possibly be a writer. And in the meantime, I really loved writing. I even wrote in this journal, which I'll just share with you instead of reading it, but in my past, like in my high school years, I loved poetry. One of the very first readings that I ever remember reading was in third grade, and it was a poem, and this poem meant so much to me that I had to buy it. Like I had to do all these chores around my house to earn money and to buy this book, and I would read this poem, this book of poems, like every day. I loved them. I thought they were genius, and anyway, I loved reading. I loved writing. And when I was in high school, the gifts that I used to give for like Mother's Day and my friends' birthdays, I would write them a poem dedicated to them with like hidden meanings, right? So like, here's this whole history of me writing and me having this belief system that I can't be a writer and that I'm not ever going to be a writer. And this is just a dream. And I didn't even pursue this. I didn't pursue this despite having my freshman English teacher think that I should be a writer, despite the fact that she saved my poem. I had to write a poem as one of my assignments, and I put it on this pretty poster and everything. And like she hung it up and like kept it. Even after I left school, she still had this poster on her wall with like my poem. And even with like, having multiple college professors tell me that I have this unique writing style, even with having editors like look at my stuff and like, I remember when I was a risk manager, they would always ask me to write the press releases because they used to say I write so pretty. And all I could think about was, I'm not a good writer. I don't write concisely. I'm not like a journalist. I can't just summarize it down. And when I had this 10-minute reading assignment, when I was reading over what I had put in there, I talked about how I don't write like other people. I write with so much emotion and I just can't fit into anybody else's niche. So here's how all of these belief systems work, and these beliefs can work against you. And for the longest time, they were working against me. Like I wasn't ever pursuing this passion. I was just keeping it as a hobby, as just like something that I enjoyed doing, something that I would give to other people from my heart as gifts to people. But I wasn't sharing this gift with the world. I was only sharing it with like my mom or my best friend or whatever. And I had all of these excuses and all of these reasons of why I couldn't be a writer. And I'm a writer. I'm an author. I truly, truly am. And I can't wait to share this book with you. And I'm just going to tell you now that my website has chapter 1 available for you to read for free. And it is so damn good. This book is so powerful. You just can't even believe it. I don't even care if you think this is bragging or I shouldn't talk this way, but this is freaking magical book. And it deserves to be read, not because I think so, but because I know how much joy and satisfaction and how much connectivity that you will receive when you read this book. I know it because I set the intention of it, and I'm very intuitive. I have the gift of intuition and I have the gift of writing, and it comes together and it's so beautiful. And here it took me so long to get to this place, to be able to have the confidence that I am a writer, that I am an author. It took me so long to believe in myself. Do you know what that's like? I'm sure you do. I coach people on this, so I know this exists, but I'm here to tell you that dreams do come true. And it's fantastic. And yes, you're going to have to face your fears. You're going to have to rewrite some of these belief systems, because if I kept believing that I wasn't a writer, I wouldn't write. And if I kept believing that my grammar wasn't good enough, and if I kept believing that and comparing myself to other people and saying I don't write like them, this work would have never been accomplished, because my negative thoughts would create negative feelings, and those negative feelings would lead to lack of action. And if I constantly sat there and focused on my fear, I wouldn't have taken the action. Now, I will tell you that it took me going to a transformational coach and working with somebody. I worked also with Padma one-on-one, and it took actions for me to get here. I had to work through my obstacles. You're going to have to work through your obstacles too. Now I'm in a different place now. I've written this book. I'm ready to release it and share it with the world, and I'm so excited about it. But I'm also in a different place too, because now I so understand the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that keep us stuck. I understand at such a deep level. And I get to help other people now. I get to help them with their stories and what they're saying to themselves and the stories that they're making up, these excuses and these projections. They don't even know the future, but they're projecting all of these things that are hurting them and not allowing them to grow and expand and to try something new and try something different and to do the unknown, right? So I get to help a lot of people overcome these situations. And I get to help people even like, for instance, my perfectionism. I can read my writing and I can perfect it and perfect it and perfect it to the point that I take out the emotion and it's just this sterile piece of work, right? And there's a lot I had to work through to let go. So now when I write and I've said this before, I just write from pure consciousness. I'm not using my analytical brain. The analytical brain will come into it later when I have to make decisions on, when the editor comes back with a revision. Do I agree with this revision? Does this align with my heart? Does this align with the message? Could this be worded differently, right? So there's a place for my analytical process, but it is not in the creative process. Your ego, which is a lot of where your analytical side comes into, your ego is going to, what's the saying? Your ego is not your amigo. Your ego is going to keep you small at times, and that's okay, because that's part of the lesson and that's part of learning. And you know what? Have I tried writing multiple books? Yes. Even right after my second child was born, I spent 3 months writing this book, and I wrote over 100 pages, and I just stopped, right? I just stopped. I spent 3 months working on this, pouring my heart and soul into it, and I stopped. And that wasn't the only time I've done it. I've started a lot, but that was the only other book that I got up to like 100 pages. I've gotten up to 20 and 30 and 40 and 50, but I never had made it up to 100. And I had tried so many times starting and stopping, just like we do with our diets, starting and stopping and starting and stopping, right? Because you have to change what you value, what you believe, and your identity. Otherwise, you start self-sabotaging. And this was the piece that I was missing for so long. I was self-sabotaging for so long. I didn't believe myself. And that ultimately always stopped me. So it was like I was getting to the threshold of success. I was getting that motivation, and I was using that motivation to get somewhere, and then I would stop. So not only do I invite you to go to my website, which is in the show notes, to get on my waiting list. You'll be so glad that you did. You'll be so happy, and you're going to absolutely love chapter 1. So you can get on that waiting list. You can read chapter 1, but you can also start signing up for some of my other services. Like I have like free hypnosis. I also have some training material, right? Because I understand what it's like, the stories that we tell ourselves, where we get stuck. I understand how to work through it, and I'm willing to help you. But the truth of it is you have to do the work. I'm willing to guide you. I'm willing to be that support. I'm willing to believe in you when you don't even believe in yourself, right? Because I can hold vision. I can hold vision. I held this whole book in my head. And not only that, but I've got other visions coming through for this book, right? I can hold the vision for you, but you have to be willing to do the work. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode and getting to know about this book and all the struggles and stuff I came through. I have got some podcasts that I'm going to be interviewed on, so you can learn more and hear more stories about this. But I just wanted to remind you that your brain sometimes deceives you. It deletes, it filters, it moves your awareness away from the things sometimes that can be the most encouraging. When I saw this 10-minute letter and saw that in 5th grade that I knew I wanted to be a writer, it made my heart light up. Somewhere along the lines, I convinced myself that I wasn't ever going to be a writer, and here I am, an author. All right, I'm sending you much love, and I'll see you next time.